there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kelsey and I am a beauty UGC or user-generated content creator. Today's video is a really fun one. I had a lot of fun kind of scripting this and planning this video out. It's going to be a podcast episode as well, but this one you'll be able to have like the visuals. So we're going to be talking today about discontinued makeup products that I miss. And I think this is really fun to kind of go down memory lane and rediscover or find pictures, videos of products that we used to love. So let's just get started. I have a whole list here in front of me. Okay, so I have my list here of all of the discontinued makeup that I miss. And before we get into the products, I just want to say that if you remember any of these products, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what your favorite makeup product was that has been unfortunately discontinued. I'd love to take a trip down memory lane and learn what everybody's favorites were. So the first product we're going to talk about, and I'm not going in any particular order, are the Too Faced chocolate bar palettes. Super popular around 2015, 2016, and everybody had them. Everybody was doing tutorials, reviews, using those chocolate bar palettes, and I just remember them smelling so good. They smelled like chocolate. The tin was like a slim like chocolate bar. There was the original chocolate bar palette, and then there was the semi-sweet, and then the chocolate bonbons palette released. So those were the three like original chocolate bar palettes from Too Faced, and I'm so sad that you can no longer get them. I don't think anything from Too Faced eyeshadow palette wise will top those. Another product from Too Faced, the mini like tin eyeshadow palette. So they have some now that are like slim, and I think they're like the same concept. They were kind of shaped, they kind of looked like a cassette tape. They had some really fun palettes. They had like a sugar pop one, which was all like pastel shades. It was so pretty. There was a peanut butter and jelly one, so they had like the warm brown and orange tones with like some purples. There was the natural all matte, so it was like all matte shadows, and they were like my kind of eyeshadows too, like my favorite shades. I loved collecting those. I mean, they, like I said, they were small, like the size of a cassette tape, so you could just pile them all in your drawer, and they were just so pretty and cute to look at. The packaging was always so cute, especially like since it matched like the shadows inside. When I say I was so excited when Urban Decay re-released their Naked palette, like the original Naked palette, I cannot tell you how excited I was, because that was my first high-end palette, like when I got into makeup 10 years ago. But another palette from Urban Decay that I really wish they would re-release is Urban Decay's Naked 2. So that one was more of like the cool tones. It had some like taupes, silvers, grays. It was more cool toned. And I think that was the first palette too from the Naked collection that had like the metal packaging. But I loved that one. I tend to gravitate towards more cool toned eyeshadows anyways, because I just feel like they enhance my eye color. But I really wish that they would relaunch that one, because I really did like that one. I know some people didn't really care for it, but I personally did. This next product, I feel like it wasn't around long enough for me to really enjoy it, or for anybody to really enjoy it, but it was the Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation. If you remember that one, it was in a beautiful glass bottle. It had like the doe foot applicator that you like take out of the foundation, and then you just can, you know, put it on your sponge, or you can put it on your face like directly from the doe foot applicator. That foundation was gorgeous. Now, mind you, I didn't feel the shade range was all that great. Like even the lightest shade possible that they had in that collection was still a little bit too dark for me. So if they ever did bring it back, I would hope that they would expand the shade range on both ends of it. But the foundation just gave you that most beautiful, like natural glow, and it just looked so good. Ooh, this next one kind of goes way back to when I first began my journey as a content creator, are the NYX Butter Lipsticks. Do you guys remember those? Those were like the lipsticks, okay? and they came in really cute packaging. It was like the color of the lipstick, and they were all kind of like pastel shades. I don't think there were any dark shades. I don't think there were, but they came in like really cute pinks and purples and like corals, peaches, and they were just so aesthetically pleasing. They were so cute. The formula, I mean, sure, they did not last, but I didn't care because they were just that cute. Another one from NYX were the Prismatic Single Shadows. Those were my absolute favorite eyeshadows, and I was so sad when I learned that you could no longer purchase those. So they were like individual shadows, and I forget how many. I want to say there were 12 shades. I had every single shade because I just loved them that much. There was like a really beautiful bronze, a mint, a really pretty kind of like rusty color, gold, blue, like a dark navy blue. And they just were so good. Like the formula, they were metallic, but they were so smooth and soft and buttery, but they just wore so well and they just looked so good. Oh, I really, really miss those eyeshadows. Those were some of my absolute favorite eyeshadows. The Too Faced Peach Collection, the Sweet Peach Collection. That was probably one of Too Faced's best collections. From the blushes, the lip glosses, the eyeshadow palettes. Like everything in the Too Faced Peach Collection was phenomenal. The powder, the setting powder, it smelled like peaches, and it just set my makeup beautifully. The eyeshadow palette, it was like a big peach. That was definitely one of the best collections I think Too Faced ever launched. Speaking of other collections, the ColourPop Kathleen Lights collaboration. So Kathleen Lights is a YouTuber here on YouTube, and she collaborated with ColourPop many years ago and created, I think, 2 eyeshadow palettes. There were some lip glosses, liquid lipsticks. There were some pigments. I want to say there were some of the single like Super Shock shadows. And I loved her collection. What was Dream Street? That's what it was. The eyeshadow palette, I think it had 9 eyeshadows in it. I loved that palette so much. I used that palette like every single day. Then she released the, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like one of the bigger palettes, like the 35 shades, I think. And it was like all like crystal and like gem themed. Again, gorgeous. I never got that palette, but oh man, I really wish I did because it just looked fantastic. Although this one from ColourPop, Play It Jewel, this is not the Kathleen Lights one. Oh, it's really dirty. But this palette is a really good eyeshadow palette if you like jewel tones as well. Another one from ColourPop was the Yes Please eyeshadow palette. It was all warm tones. Now people went crazy for this, myself included, because this got released in perfect timing to a very expensive Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette where it was all warm tones and everybody was loving it, but it was expensive. It's Natasha Denona. ColourPop decided to create a alternative, and I loved that palette. I was a little afraid of warm tones back then. I really wish I still had that eyeshadow palette now that I'm more comfortable with using warm tones and other shadow tones. You kind of notice a trend with this. So aside from blushes, I love eyeshadows. So there's a lot of eyeshadow palettes and eyeshadow formulas on this list that I miss because those are just some of my favorite makeup products. Another Urban Decay eyeshadow palette. I know you're probably getting tired of it, but the Naked Smoky. So that one was the really dark, well, smoky eyeshadow palette that they created. The packaging was so cool, kind of like the smoky, like different shades of like the smoke on the outside of the palette. That was gorgeous. I loved that palette. And again, I remember hearing people did not like that one. And I don't know if it was because it was too like dark and moody for some people. I personally loved it because I love those gray tones. Ooh, this next one hurts my soul. Makeup Geek. I mean, the brand as a whole, which maybe I'll do a separate video on like brands that are no longer exist, because that would be a kind of a fun one too, because there's a lot of brands that are not around anymore that I remember using years ago. But Makeup Geek was one. If I remember correctly, and I might have to do some research, you might have to do some research, I believe they closed down in 2020, or they announced their closure in 2020. And I just remember feeling so sad, because if you have been in the online beauty space for any amount of time, you know the space that Makeup Geek takes up. Makeup Geek created, I don't know if they were like one of the first brands to create like the single magnetic eyeshadows that you can pop into a magnetic palette or a Z palette, and you could kind of customize your own eyeshadow palette. And I remember being just in awe over these, because they were very affordable and I could create the type of eyeshadow palette that I wanted. And they were so good. They performed beautifully. They were creamy, pigmented, easy to blend. They were just such fantastic eyeshadows. And then Marlena branched off and created like duochromes, foiled shadows, and oh my gosh, they were amazing. And then she ventured into some, well, actually no, she had blushes for a while too, but it was the same concept where you could kind of customize a blush palette, put them in the Z palette. She ventured into some eyeliners. I think there were some lip products. She collaborated with other beauty creators, and it was just fantastic. And I am so sad that you cannot get those anymore. Another brand that unfortunately did close, but I loved some of their products, were Becca. Becca's First Light Priming Filter. So that, I believe, was launched after the Backlight Priming Filter, which was, I missed that one too. Like these two primers were some of my absolute favorite illuminating primers. So the Backlight Priming Filter was more of like that kind of champagne color. The First Light Priming Filter was the purple, which really helped with kind of like evening out skin tone. But they smelled so good. They looked beautiful. They just kind of soaked into the skin. They didn't look glittery or greasy or anything like that. They didn't emphasize things that you don't want emphasized. And they just made your foundation just look amazing. And I am so sad that those no longer exist. Those are my favorite primers. They came in a beautiful, luxurious looking glass bottle. They were sturdy, and oh my gosh, those are my favorite primers. And then also from Becca, the Hydra Mist Setting Powder. That was my favorite loose setting powder years ago. It was, I don't know how they made it, but it was a hydrating setting powder, okay? You would like dip in like your brush or your sponge, whatever it was, and when you'd put it on your face felt like wet. It was a very weird sensation, and with having dry skin, it just felt like I got splashed with cold water, and it just felt so good. But it really helped make your makeup last and not, get dried out or cakey looking. It was an amazing powder. And then also from Becca, their blushes and their highlighters. I know that Smashbox picked up one of the highlighters, Champagne Pop, and I'm so glad that that one is still around. But the other highlighters and blushes, like their blushes were so pigmented and so like bright and out there, and they were just really pretty. And I just remember those being super popular. I really loved them. And then the highlighters, of course, and I really liked the Jaclyn Hill collaborations, the like Champagne Pop like eyeshadow palette or the face palette. I really liked those, so I do miss those products as well. Another one was this concealer that I'm about to tell you about. This was like the concealer, aside from the NARS one, which that one thankfully still exists, but this one from Urban Decay, the Naked Skin Concealer. Oh my gosh, that concealer, I don't know what magic they put in it, but it was just covered everything. It was so smooth and hydrating, yet full coverage. And the formula, the shade range, like everything about it, the applicator even, I loved. Loved that. That was one of my favorite concealers ever. The last product from Urban Decay that I missed was the electric palette. I know that was not everybody's cup of tea because not everybody wears those bright neon shades, but I loved it. It was such a unique palette, and I love the packaging. The packaging was beautiful. The shades were beautiful. Like, if you were into those type of eyeshadow colors, you loved that palette. And I remember watching like YouTube videos and like tutorials with this palette and seeing how these other creators were kind of making this palette more wearable, or they were doing something really bright and fun. And it was just such a fantastic palette. It was so fun to use. But oh, the electric palette, man, oh man, I've yet to find, and let me know if you know of one, but I've yet to find another palette with those types of shades that performs as well as that one did. Another powder that I loved years ago was the NYC Loose Setting Powder. I don't know, NYC is no longer in business. No, I believe they are out of business as well. But that powder was like a couple of dollars, and you got like a big jar of it. And that just was like, that was like the drugstore powder back then. I remember it being like so finely milled and lightweight, and it just made your makeup last all day long. And for the price, I mean, come on, you can't beat that. And finally, my last product that I missed was the Jordana Best Lash Extreme Mascara. That was a mascara that was like a couple of dollars. Again, I got it from like CVS or Walgreens, I think is where I used to buy it from. And that, I have pretty short, like, natural lashes, so it was hard for me to find a mascara. This is like before I kind of got comfortable with using falsies. And that mascara did a fantastic job at like lifting my lashes. It didn't flake, I didn't get raccoon eyes. My lashes looked good all day long, and I do remember it removing easily as well. That was like, again, another classic affordable mascara. Those were all the products that I could come up with that I miss. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.